to the Boston Bombers. Um, Not a lot of big names coming because they didn't have a ton of money, but they did a little bit of retooling after they lost Miles Turner. Re-signed Jonas Valanciunas to kind of fill up that center position, but and then they drafted Derek Lively the second, which I think some people are really excited about after his first couple of preseason games. So oh, we didn't actually, I'm sorry, we didn't say where did you, oh no, actually you did say for speedsters, you have them right up there with Rucker Park. So Boston Bombers, where do you have him? And I guess first tell me about what you thought about the offseason and the projected lineup. Killer.
Um, uh, I think this team is pretty dormant, off season, um, probably soaking in, the upset, as a number one seed last year, losing. I think, yeah, I think there were more moves to be made. I think this team certainly needed to make some moves because, um, they just don't have enough, in my opinion, in the new landscape of the associations, right? Like we'll talk about eventually the Gotham Great Danes and also the Rucker Park Busters, right? Which I think, are the top two teams um, in the association. And I think, yeah, just so much just has to go right for this team to be successful. Everyone probably knows like I'm like anti Tyrese Halliburton. I think he's I think he's a good player, but I think he's just a little bit overrated in my estimation. And I think he's also another player which I think last year might have been his best season. Um and so I just think the accumulation of this team is not going to be enough to get it done, especially with the downgrade from Miles Turner to Jonas Vala the Tunis.
Kevin Juniasis.
It's a mouthful. Um, unless RJ Barrett, right? Like RJ Barrett. Maybe RJ Barrett, takes that next step, but this team is just Christian Wood. You're asking for Christian Wood to do a lot too. I just think it's very, very it's very shallow. Like there's only, half this team I think is like respectable to put out there. The other half is just it's just not going to work in today's NBA. Chris Paul is, we were just talking about for the speedsters. Chris Paul might not even be starting. Onyeka is on the bench. He just got Jalen Duren. Like this is just not a good product right now. I think they need to choose a direction to either make some trades to either go all in, but I don't even know, what they use to go all in. So it's probably better to go the opposite route and rebuild.
Yeah, well, that would be a long time coming. This is one of the teams that we just went from probably one of the teams that flip rosters the most to one of the teams that are pretty consistent with their players. So, um, did you have a number for where you rank them in the conference?
I think they still have enough to be like 4 or 5 in the conference. So they'll be battling it out with Van City. I think Van City's got, enough knobs where they can possibly finish ahead of this team, especially when right, we're looking at Kevin Durant. He's standing and he's playing, but he doesn't do that quite frequently each regular season, right? He's liable to miss, a couple of months. And he's only gotten older. So,
Yeah,
it's gonna be tough.
yeah, yeah. Well said, Alex. How about you? What do you think?
Yeah, the projected starters, I look at them. I have Boston Bombers right around the four, ahead of Van City Grizz and Solid State. But you look at the projected starters, and to me, with the exception of let's say RJ, who I'm not a huge fan of, and Halliburton. Everyone else is probably on the other side of their career and on the downturn. So right now, I think Levine, DeMar, and KD are certainly enough to have him in the upper half of our division. But when you compare it to some of the other teams, let's say mine could turn to shit, right? We don't know if those guys are actually going to deliver, but it's the unexpected. They're on the upswing of their careers. This is the opposite. So I think, he could still be competitive this season. Beyond that, it's a little bit less certain. I also looking and go, damn, Turner would look so good in that slot where it says Christian Wood. Um,
Yeah.
like, do we even remember how much Turner was last year? Because
He
he's
was
76 this year.
He was
he was like
probably
80 something.
80 something. Yeah, probably around
87, I think,
89.
is the number I recall. Yeah. And
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like, I don't really trust JV or Christian Wood a ton. Another team that's one starting center away, I think, from going up a spot or two. I will
Mhm.
give some love to obviously Halliburton. I love Halliburton. Like, yeah, Cam smoking something. Um, like,
Yeah.
I will give some love to Denny Avdia. I
Mhm.
think he could have a big year in Washington this year if they just kind of say, let's see what the guys can do. He's not a triple double guy, but he's kind of got that game where he's gonna put up low digit points and then high rebounds, high assists. He's also probably gonna get you a steal. I like his game. He's still young. I think he could be a nice surprise for the Bombers this year. Well, not a surprise. I mean, he drafted him. He probably knows what's up, but I think he'll be good. And then he's got Sharp on this squad too, right? Sharp and Josh Green. So he's got some young, exciting players that he can either keep or move if he wants to compete. So yeah, I don't mind
Certainly.
it.
Yeah. I agree. They have some pieces that they can either, like Lively, Denny, you know, and even
Mhm.
Shaden Sharp. You can package those guys and maybe get you another, great big or something. Or maybe I know people like Bodine believe Derek Lively could pretty much take over the center position in Dallas right now, or at least by the half, maybe maybe a couple of months into the season, whatever it may be. And if he hits, what if maybe he can fill a void in that lineup. I like what you said about Denny. I stat from a stat set um perspective, I think he's got a little bit of Draymond Green in him, in terms of what he can bring to the table. His rebounding is probably better than advertised, and um, I think he could do a little bit of everything. So, maybe Denny gets the opportunity in Washington this year, and he hits and can make this lineup. Because I agree, I think RJ Barrett is asking a lot of RJ to fit, to kind of be a contributor to this lineup. Contavious Caldwell Pope, another role player who can do a lot and has actually been, pretty decent as far as what he can bring to you in the totals. When you look at total value overall throughout the season. But yeah, Christian Wood, who he's solid when he plays, but do you really want to rely on Christian Wood and JV to kind of be your bigs? That's probably going to be tough. But everyone else, I think, is solid. Tyrese, I think, is a stud. Um, and but he misses a lot of times until from season to season. Same thing with Kevin Durant, and I think what we've seen with this team, Zach LaVine is another guy, who misses a ton of time sometimes. So, this team tends to, have hot streaks, and then as one of those three guys fall off, they kind of drag the team down, and I think that's probably what happened to them before entering the playoffs or even during the playoffs. Like when KD went down, it was a struggle for this team. So, it's something to monitor. Maybe, like you said, Killer, they need to do some consolidating or some restructuring, get some new talent, get some new blood in the organization, and move on from there. All right. The defending champion, Brooklyn Phoeniks. Man, where do we start with this offseason? You did a lot, man. Let's give you some credit, first of all, because you brought in the best fantasy player that we've seen in the past, you know, what's it, the fourth or fifth straight year finishing number one? Like, I
It feels
mean,
like forever.
the guy's good, man. The guy's really good. You also signed Miles Turner, drafted Scoot Henderson, and traded for Pirtle and Vassell. Um, the lineup looks good, man. But you know, you got some needs that you didn't address, and I want you to talk a little bit about that.
So we're going to start off with an interrogation.
Let's get to it.
All right. Well, so as you pointed out, Dane brought in Jokic. He's the number one fantasy player, and he brings a unique fantasy skill set where he basically is one of the leaders in assist from your center position. Is ridiculously efficient from the free throw line, and field goal percentage, is out of this world, at ridiculous value. And he's one of the best rebounders, right? Right. And right, that goes to say, right, he's one of the better or best fantasy players
He's the best
out
guy
there.
that's out
And
there.
and so,
You,
right.
you might have won the offseason off of that alone, right? Like you brought in the number one guy.
And I think it was important. I mean, I didn't want to move, Cade Cunningham. And who was the other
Let's be
player?
honest, man. You're not
Wendell
that
Carter
sad about it.
Jr.
You're not that sad about Cade.
I mean, I mean, I was originally, but I also remembered last year Cade Cunningham didn't play for us. Like we
Yeah, that's what
literally
I'm
won a
saying.
championship
You
without
had Cade
Cade
on the bench the whole
Cunningham.
year. Yeah.
So I mean, he got hurt. I mean, there's nothing we can do, right? Next man up
Right.
mentality.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm excited about is Jamal Murray. Like this is going to be kind of the second full year he's going to be able to play, following like the ACL injury. There is concern that he might step into some of Jokic assist numbers, but maybe not. It's the regular season. So both of those two guys should really be studs. I just need a little bit of Jamal Murray's kind of playoff numbers to percolate into the regular season. And I think it's got opportunity because I'm pretty sure he wants to be recognized as like an all NBA or an all-star player. So I see him possibly putting in a lot of effort to try to get those individual awards. So I think Jamal Murray is going to have a quote unquote breakout or bubble type of year. Jaden Ivey, I mean, I'm asking for a lot, right? Like, he's stepping into his second year. We kind of don't know what the DNA of the Pistons are. And he's, basically, my starting two guard right now, right? Because, we didn't bring in, additional guards this offseason. And the main reason why we didn't do that is because we believe in Jaden Ivey. Like he's been putting in all the work. He's been at the training facilities, at the practice facilities, talking with the coach and staff. And, he said he's ready for a bigger role. And so, we're going to give him that opportunity or chance. Let it be said, if that goes wrong, Jaden Ivey, we might be shipping him out or sending him, for somebody that, better aligns with the timeline. And then Devin Vassell, I'm a pop guy. Vassell, is a defensive first guy, which has figured out, offensive game in the NBA. And I just think he's gonna be set up for a really good year, as long as he can, avoid, getting injured, which has kind of been one of his struggles, early on in his NBA career. And then I got my man Paul Reed. Paul Reed was an important part of the process. I think he's gonna have a big year. Like Nick Nurse is a maniac. He loves us fantasy owners, and he's gonna play in large minutes because he hustles, he defends, he does a lot of the intangibles. The good thing with him is those intangibles typically lead to fantasy stats. We're talking steals, blocks, things of that sort. Um, and so it's right, it's just perfect. I will say, right, like the way that we got Devin Vassell was through Josh Giddey. If we knew we were gonna get Jokic, we would have never sent the sellout, right? But you never know what kind of deals are going to come and go, and so the timing of it, um, unfortunately, didn't line up as well, right? Because then maybe we would have had a little bit more versatility and a skill set that kind of matched with some of the other guys that I've got on the roster. But I mean, otherwise, I think we're pretty good. I mean, as everyone, has noted we've got a lot of centers. But I mean, these centers might play the power forward position. Like why doesn't Miles Turner play power forward? I mean, he hits like three threes a game. Who's
I
not
think I have a
mentioned here
pretty
is
good idea why he doesn't play power forward. It's
I
because he's
mean,
not a power forward.
he's not a power forward, but okay, he's not a power forward. Uh, do you want to define what a power forward is live on air?
Look,
It's
What's a
not
power
it's not
your
forward?
just small
biggest.
forward.
It's not your biggest man who's your best shot blocker. How's that?
Right. That's I don't know what it is, but I know what it's not.
Not your biggest man who's not your shot blocker.
Who's not your
Oh,
best shot blocker?
so PJ Tucker.
Sure.
That's
Yeah,
Or
sure.
Jarris Walker.
Jarris
Or
Walker.
Paul Reed.
Paul Reed.
He's not your
Who I
biggest guy on the
also
squad.
who Paul Reed, who I also think is the center, but
He
they give
technically
him
Not with
is.
Embiid. He could play
well, yeah,
center.
not with Embiid. Yeah,
Not
so you
with
got to move
Embiid.
him to four. It's kind of like when they moved Horford to power forward, and it's like he's not a power
Yeah,
forward, but
because
okay,
Rob Will.
he's
They
next to
had Rob
Embiid.
Will.
Yeah,
Well, they
Rob
started that
Will.
when they actually started the whole thing when they moved him to Philly and he started next to Embiid, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I know, we'll put Horford at center we'll put him at power forward next to a center,
Yeah.
and it worked in Boston, but it didn't work in Philly. Um,
For real though, with the power forward, from what I've read, and I don't remember who, from people obviously smarter than us, you are who you guard, and Miles Turner cannot guard the quintessential power forwards of today's game out there by the three on the perimeter penetrate. You're gonna plug him in as the anchor because he's such an elite shot blocker with below average lateral quickness. Not at the center position, but at the power forward position, below average lateral quickness. So he's not power forward.
yeah, I tend to agree with that, and I because I've made the defensive argument before as well, like who you out there guarding. It doesn't
Yeah.
always translate with every player, but I think it's a nice benchmark to look at. Now you mentioned Jaden Ivey
Mhm.
and him possibly getting a bigger role. Are you concerned at all that he may actually be in a six-man role this year?
I mean, six man might be ideal because
Yeah.
he'll get to have the ball in his hands and play make, right? Like he had some games, second half of the season where he was given, 5, 6, 7 dimes. I mean, 10 dimes a game. So I just think he's just plays with like a lot of force.
Yeah.
And he's he's just like really good. So if it's in a six-man role, I'm down. I just want to see 28 plus minutes, right? Hopefully he can hit 30. If he hits 30, I feel really good. Um,
Do you still have RW3 on your roster?
He does.
I absolutely do. I absolutely do.
He's I think he out of all the guys that you have, all the out of the 7 or 8 centers you have, I think he has the realistic chance of getting power forward eligibility this year.
Yeah,
So I
Right.
because
think he
I
might
agree.
get lucky with that.
yeah, I think Wendell Carter Jr. is probably not. He had it last year, but he pretty much
Yeah.
just played center. My guess is probably next to Bol was probably what gave him that opportunity
I,
to get
I
power
think
forward
Yahoo
last
just
year.
messed up. I think Yahoo just messed up. It's kind of like they gave Gafford power forward eligibility this year, and it's like, why? Why did you do that? What was the like? What made you think? Let me put Gafford as a power forward. He's never going to play power forward. Not for that team.
Well, no, the issue might have been the timing of the Porzingis trade, right? Like if right, I think when they first might have opened up Yahoo, Porzingis might have been um on the Wizards, right? And if he's on the Wizards and then both of those guys are starting, Gafford is the power forward. Like
No, he's
he's
not.
by Cook's definition the second tallest player in that starting lineup.
Who you can guard if we were doing real talk, but yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
who can you
Gafford's a
guard? He's
better.
yeah, and you're not
Gafford is
putting
probably
Gafford.
going to more likely to guard a power forward than
No,
Porzingis.
no,
Mm.
he's more likely to guard a center than Porzingis.
You think so?
Yeah, you want Porzingis guarding centers?
I don't want Porzingis guarding anybody.
Oh, he does
I
that already anyway.
when you think about
That's
Porzingis, you got to think about guys like Anthony Davis who would rather play power forward because he doesn't want to guard those centers, because he wants to conserve his body. You want to conserve Porzingis' body, like I think that was
I
one of the
agree.
motivations to bring it to the
I agree.
Celtics. So, but yeah, but I think, but to the point, I think Robert Williams has a good chance of getting that eligibility, playing maybe next to Ayton this year, with
Yeah.
some minutes. We'll see how that goes. Now, another Blazer that's on your roster is Scoot Henderson, and he's slotted to be in your lineup, in your starting lineup. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but is he ready for prime time?
Oh, Scoot is ready. Scoot's been ready since like pre-draft out workouts. Like this man like trains with like Steph Curry. Scoot is gonna be so good this year. I'm talking about 7, 8 assists. Um, like, did you guys watch Summer League? Did you feel the electricity when you were watching Scoot?
Listen, you don't gotta tell me
Like,
about Scoot,
like,
man.
like
I love it.
Scoot,
I'm in love with Scoot.
Scoot, the pace that he was moving at and just the leadership that he has. Like you can tell, like this guy is ready to play ball. He's ready to lead a franchise. And now he's got DeAndre Ayton. You're giving him DeAndre Ayton for like the pick and pop. Like these assists are just going to
Yeah.
be too easy to come by. Like I am like extremely bullish on Scoot. He already can defend at a good enough level. So I think he'll be able to get some steals. The shooting, right? The shooting's going to be a struggle, but that's what rookies do. They struggle shooting, and I'm sure he will too. But you know, he's gonna be a star, and he's gonna be a star. He's my I can't rookie of the year is too much, but he'll be in the top three. He'll be in the top three runnings for rookie of the year.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
Yeah,
fair.
I agree with that.
And so the what we didn't get to was give me the number. Actually, um, yeah, tell us what your thoughts are, Cooks.
I mean, I'll preface this with saying it's all love. This team is janky. It's still gonna be like a top 2 or 3 team in our division.
Hmm.
Kyle already knows this. I mean, 4 of your top 8 are gonna be on the bench. I mean, it's like mic drop. Enough said, right?
Isn't that good? That means it's not going to be on your team. That means it's not going to be on Gotham's team or any of the other 15 teams,
Oh,
right? That's another strategy, right?
I mean, I should.
Right.
You don't have Porzingis on your team. I should backtrack and say he's not that bad defensively. But you do
No,
have
he's not bad at all.
no, he's
I'm
not
not.
bad.
I'm not saying he's that. Yeah.
But like, I mean, you don't have a. You watched Summer League. Scoot was electric. Then you would have also watched Jaden Ivey. I definitely think he's better coming off the bench, sixth man. But Detroit just
Mhm.
played better when Asar was on the court and Jaden Ivey wasn't. Like he just played horrendous. I think he'll be better, obviously, in the come the season. But I'm not a huge fan of Jaden Ivey, at least this year. I kind of see him
Mhm.
like a Jordan Clarkson type of guy, um, as a comp, and I'm probably way out. But he's just an inefficient player. I'm not a huge fan of those guys. To me, it's like you really should have a starting shooting guard or small forward um, on your squad because I mean Claxton, Rob Will, Wendell Carter, these are guys that would be starting on most of our of the teams in our league, and they're right in the pine for you, man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
good, man. They get to watch film. They get to, watch the championship parade from last year. Like they get to soak all of that in, right? And they get to be ready when it's their time to be called. Because as we know, like centers have been like getting injured, by the hundreds. And it's a rugged season, right? And so, we're prepared, you know, next man up type of mentality. And, sometimes the scheduling gods might have it that, Wendell Carter, today is your day. You need to lead the forces.
In a
Or
weekly
Robert
lineup,
Williams.
not even daily, weekly lineup.
it's gonna it, it's,
Hey, when
it's
your center has a 2 game week in the playoffs, you're gonna be calling me. You're gonna be like, hey,
I call
hey,
you now
killer.
anyway. I'm like, trade me one of your centers. You don't
yo,
need
man.
Jaden
I
Ivey
hope,
starting
yo,
for
I
you.
just hope. I'm really hoping you can move
I'm,
Jokic to point guard at some point, man. I'm hoping.
That would be
I'm
nuts. That
hoping
would
he
be
gets
that'd
some
be
nuts.
point guard
awesome. That'd be
eligibility,
great. That'd be great.
something,
That would
man.
be
Uh, Dane, you actually have that ability. Yahoo has created a new feature where you can change the position eligibility of players. The commissioner can. So I
Yeah,
am
yeah.
petitioning to add Jokic at point guard. I
You
think
will
that
have
I think
one signature.
one
If
signature.
they didn't have a point guard, I would say, that's a fair argument. But actually you've got the other guy who plays with him at point guard. So you're in good company, man. I think you're all set, bro.
Yeah, no, I'll say still top, like right there with speedsters, two, three, probably more the three just because of the wasted bench.
Wasted
Okay,
bench.
is Cam gonna trade a center before the start of the season?
Oh, start of the season. A deal's got to be right. Before the trade deadline, absolutely. But I need to generate a little bit more hype. Like I feel like people are playing it a little bit too cool, and there should be some more names that are kind of um,
Yeah.
tossed in,
Like
tossed
No,
in.
if
I
Bombers
think
called you
I,
and said, "I will give you DeMar straight up for I don't know what the money is for Turner." No, wait, didn't he have Turner? He did have
Yeah,
No,
Turner last year.
forget that then. Rob Will or Claxton.
oh man,
Claxton,
the best center in New York is on the bench?
Claxton. That's threatening words. Like to trade Claxton, like that's like equivalent of like a Shea Gilgeous Alexander. Like we're talking about Shea kind of level. Like Claxton's just in a tier of itself.
Yeah. I mean,
All right. Well, we look with anticipation to see what you get done. Please make a trade. Please please get a starting quality guard to play next to Jamal Murray. He's not happy right now. He's not.
Jamal's fine, man. Like, doesn't he do like the extreme like martial arts and doesn't he like pain and torture?
You
And
actually have
isn't
a
he coming away from like 2 parades, like one in real life and one in fantasy? Like Jamal's good.
yeah, I guess
Jamal's
everybody's
good.
I guess you're right. I guess you're right. Maybe we're making this out to be too much.
no,
But
it's an appropriate amount of too much.
I think
His
it's an appropriate level of concern too,
with the
but
exception of Jamal, no one like maybe Devin Vassell.
Vassell.
Bogdan, Jaden Ivey, Scoot. I mean, all those guys are like outside of top 80, and that's being very generous.
Rankings, spankings, man.
Very
Come
generous.
on.
Yeah, so
Rankings, man.
so he brings up a good point.
Rankings.
I think Coach brings up a good point. I think you could go out and get a few more wings, maybe, some thighs, something to add to the mix here, because we want to see you get back to championship level, man. We don't want to see you hanging with the scrubs. So
I
get back to
appreciate you
business.
guys concerned. I appreciate you guys concerned. Nothing but love.